City of Stevens Point Special Common Council meeting, recorded May 3rd, 2021.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. I will call the special common council meeting of the City of Stevens Point to order. Clerk Yenter, could we get a roll call, please?
Jennings.
Here.
Shore.
Here.
Keemer.
Here.
Zarazua.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Slowinski's excused. Kneebone.
Here.
Leak.
Here.
Dalton.
Here.
Fischler.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum, so we will move forward. First of all, I want to welcome Alderperson Keemer. This is our first Plan Commission / Council meeting that has any action of significance. So welcome and congratulations on your election. Item number 2 is a presentation and public hearing regarding the proposed application for the Community Development Block Grant, the Coronavirus Program Funds, for the repurposing and redevelopment of 1300 Maria Drive in Stevens Point, commonly known as the Convent property. The agenda for the public hearing will be as follows. 1, we'll identification of total potential funds, eligible CDBG activities, presentation of identified community development needs, the identification of any community development needs by the public, a presentation of activities proposed by the CDBG application, including potential residential displacement, and citizen input regarding the proposed and other community development block grant activities. Director Kanoski, I will turn it over to you at this point.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Hopefully everybody's heard and has celebrated the Convent or the Grove apartment project was awarded housing tax credits through the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Association. So we're very fortunate, and that helps push this project forward. That's separate from the Community Development Block Grant Program that we're going to be discussing tonight. But essentially, what I have to do is present to the body and to the public on what the Community Development Block Grant Program is, what the proposed funding will be utilized for, and ultimately we'll be taking, at this point, 2 essentially public hearings from the public, and so at that point anyone's welcome to say anything. But the first part is the presentation itself. So recently Congress provided $5 billion in the CARES Act for community development block grant programs to states, metropolitan cities, and urban counties. I apologize because of the federal funding component of this. There are specific things that I have to include as part of this. So if it's dry and boring, I apologize. So essentially, 70% of every grant must be expended for activities that benefit low to moderate income persons by providing housing, permanent jobs, public services, or access to new or significantly improved infrastructure. The remaining 30% may be used for eliminating slum or blighted conditions, or to address urgent needs for which the grantee certifies it has no other funding. Eligible activities include the public service activities, housing related activities, public improvements and facilities, activities to acquire real property, economic development activities, or general administrative and planning activities. In this specific application that the city is working with General Capital for, are targeting the housing related activities. Developers are not eligible for community development block grant programs, direct application funds. We, as the community, will apply on behalf of the developer, and we will work through a grant transfer agreement with General Capital, pending, of course, allocation of funding for the block grant program. And so we really serve as a funnel from federal government to state government to city government to developers. So that's similar to other programs that we've had in the past, more specifically community development investment programming. As I mentioned earlier, there'll be 6 components of this agenda. 1, 2, and 3 are all presentations that I'll be providing. Item number 4 is identification of any community development needs by the public. That's an opportunity for the public to participate just based on the first 3 items. Number 5 will be the actual presentation of activities proposed for the block grant application, including potential residential displacement, which is a big part of this conversation. And then number 6 is another opportunity for citizen input regarding the proposed and other community development block grant activities. So again, the public will have 2 opportunities tonight to speak. Just for additional background, community development block grant is being applied for by the city for the redevelopment of the convent property. We refer to it as the Grove Apartments. I will probably only call it the convent tonight, although I'll try to correct myself when able. As I mentioned earlier, last week, the Wisconsin Housing Economic Development Association awarded a 4% housing tax credit for this project. That was a major milestone for this community and for this developer in this project. That allocated about 1.4 million total in housing tax credits for this project to move forward. The site plan and conditional use permit was approved in October of 2020 at a special plan commission and subsequent common council meeting. This public hearing is only pertaining to the proposed application for additional funding through the Wisconsin Department of Administration, who administers the grant program. Any comments pertaining to the land use or development itself were already heard during the October 2020 meeting. And that's a really important piece. We've already had the public hearing for the land use component. The Grove Apartments are proposed to be low to moderate incomes housing for seniors and families. The townhomes that are here are more geared towards family development, low to moderate families use, as opposed to the convent building itself, in which all 3 additions, the 1901, 1915, and 1965 edition, will be utilized for low-income senior housing. Phase 1 includes converting the historic convent into apartment units for low to moderate income seniors, and then the 3 additional townhomes on the north side, 1, 2, and 3, are more for 17 units for low to moderate families. Additionally, a city park will be dedicated on the southeast corner near Maria and Prentice Streets to help preserve the historic white pines that are on the property. So again, the first item here is identification of total potential funds. The request from the city on behalf of the developer for the Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Funds is projected to be $915,000. $206,482 is for acquisition of the land. $708,518 is for acquisition of the convent building itself. Other project funding will include private funding of over $19 million. The unit of general local government, which is the city of Stevens Point, is also providing $2.25 million in incentives to this project. That was already voted upon last fall through the development agreement with the city and the developer. Other public funds include $585,000. That comes from a number of other sources, opportunity zone opportunities, and tax credits as well. So outside of the purview of necessarily this body. The total funding for the project, or for phase 1, is just over $23 million. Again, the total request for community development block grant coronavirus funding is $915,000. That's the number that we're really focusing on this evening. As discussed in an earlier slide, eligible activities include public service activities, housing related activities, which is the portion that the city is pursuing with the developer, public improvement and facilities, activities to acquire real property or real estate, economic development activities, and general administrative and planning activities. Many communities struggle with providing decent, safe, and sanitary affordable rental housing to their residents. City of Stevens Point is no different. Community development block grant funds can be used to acquire, which is what we're using it for, rehabilitate or construct rental housing. There are tenant income requirements and rent restrictions for projects, and the housing tax credits that we were afforded from WIDA essentially outlines those requirements as well. These funds may be used for acquisition of property for an eligible rental housing project. Block grant may also be used for rehab and of rental housing. As outlined earlier, our request is for $915,000. City staff, along with the developer, believe that the application is consistent with housing-related requirements. The third one before the public hearing, and you guys won't have to listen to my monotone voice anymore, I promise, for a little bit, is a presentation of identified community development needs. Statistically, In the city of Stevens Point, 34% of all households in the city are considered cost burden, which means that they're paying more than 30% of their income towards housing costs. That number has been fairly stagnant, which is good, but it's also not great because it's not declining. It's good because it's not increasing. Obviously, with the affordable housing, senior housing at Berkshire, we're hopeful that that will be addressed into the future as well and will go down. 77% of those houses earning under 50% of the annual median income, which is just under $37,000 a year for a family of four, are considered housing cost burdened, which means more than 30% of their monthly income goes towards housing. And of course, cost burdened families and renters face difficult trade-offs between paying for housing and other necessities like food, medical, school supplies, clothing, things of that nature. This trade-off leads to very low standard of living, health issues, and lack of educational advancement for cost burdened households. The city of Stevens Point has a 2005 adopted comprehensive plan. Our 2017 plan has been on the back burner since 2018, and we're still working to complete that update. But there are a number of goals in the housing chapter of the city's 2005 comprehensive plan, including the strengthening of neighborhoods. And you can see the policies that are outlined within that first goal, which really identifies, density goals and incentives through zoning, other means. We've been working towards that with our accessory dwelling units. We've been trying to address the barriers, the administrative barriers to providing additional housing within the community as well. Goal number 5 outlines offering adequate supply of housing within the city, analyzing locations for development of workforce housing in the city to create a balanced housing stock, improve dissemination of information electronically relating to workforce housing options. It's something this department's been working on with Mr. Cordes and our neighborhood improvement coordinator. And then, of course, again, reviewing and modifying existing regulatory documents that provide a barrier for additional affordable housing. In 2017, the city also had a housing study performed. We are hopeful that we can update that over the next few years, just given the number of additional units that have come online in the city of Stevens Point, the village of Plover, and the village of Whiting. But essentially, the policy recommendations outlined identified providing additional multifamily residential units, studio and one-bedroom units were a major component, and that the city should also encourage townhome and zero lot line development, especially where they can fulfill urban design objectives. Finally, the city should be receptive to new senior and assisted living housing projects. And we are, of course, doing that through the Convent project, new senior housing projects. At this time, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn the floor back over to you. This would be an opportunity for the public to provide any additional community development needs as they identify or see fit.
And then I would open the floor up if anyone has comments relating to this. Raise your virtual hand, unmute yourself, and the chair will recognize you for testimony. Public hearing in this regard is still open. For the third and final time, the public hearing on this remains open. Seeing no one of our 27 remaining participants wishing to speak, I will declare the public hearing on this portion closed. Director, we have no further identification. Move on to item number 5.
Thank you. Item number 5 is a presentation of activities proposed for the Community Development Block Grant application, including potential residential displacement. As outlined earlier, the acquisition of the Convent property, which is in green here on your screen, includes the land and the physical assets as well, like the buildings, is the main driver for the request for $915,000 to the Community Development Block Grant program itself. Although at the peak of the Convent, that nearly 200 sisters call the property home, dwindling an aging population at the Convent has been an ongoing issue. And more recently, the majority of the sisters have been relocated to another facility outside of the state. At this time, minimal residents still reside at the convent are in the process of relocating outside the state. There's less than 5 remaining at the property, and they have plans for relocation prior to acquisition of the property. And so when we talk about potential residential displacement, the number that the city is going to be using ultimately is 0. With that, Mayor, this is a second opportunity for the public to provide input on the proposed community development block grant activity.
Thank you, Director. Before we move into that, I do have one point of clarification. It's great that they are repurposing the building and the grounds and reusing most of it. But because of the remodel that needs to take place, it's my understanding that there may be some interior walls, flooring, doors, things like that. So most of the original structure will be reused, but not all. Is that correct?
That's correct. The main convent building will appear as it is today in 20 years. The interior, there will be some updating to that to meet current residential building code requirements.
Thank you. There was a question on that, and I just wanted to be clear before I moved on. So at this point, we will open up the public hearing regarding this proposal and other community development block grant activities. Anyone from the public wishing to testify? Public hearing in that regard remains open. And for the third and final time, the public hearing remains open.
Someone is at the back door.
Hearing and seeing no one wishing to speak, I will declare that public hearing closed. And that concludes agenda item number 2. Is that correct, Director?
That's correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for participating. We will move on to a couple of other time-sensitive council items. And number 3 is a resolution, which is a request previously approved earlier this evening by the Plan Commission for the Portage County Healthcare Center for a conditional use permit to construct an outdoor visitation area located at 825 Whiting Avenue with the parcel identified in your packet. Director, did you have anything to add?
City staff has nothing additional to add.
Thank you very much. I know there wasn't a memo included in the resolution request, so I thought I'd ask. Alderpersons, what are your wishes? President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve. Thank you very
Is
much.
there a second? Seconded by Alder Jennings. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will require a roll call vote here. Clerk Yenter, could you please call the roll?
Jennings,
Aye.
Shore. Keemer,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slawinski's excused, Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Ishler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And even without a memo, it was a unanimous consent. Thank you all very much. Number 4 is some mayoral appointments that were overlooked at the reorganization meeting. Reappointing Alderperson Mary Kneebone to her existing term as Police and Fire Commission liaison for the City Council, and appointing newly elected Ginger Keemer to the Municipal Court Oversight Committee, filling the unexpired term of former Alderperson Nabel. Council, what are your wishes?
Alder Morrow, this is the motion to approve.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Alder Fischler, I'll second.
Fischler seconds. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. We can do a voice vote here, I think. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? By unanimous consent, that is approved. Our agenda is exhausted. We are adjourned at 7:19.
Videos of these meetings are available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.